Praise the Lord, my beautiful, blessed souls. We are back with another word. Dueteronomy chapter 8, and I'm trying to get this going so I can get caught up. Let's get into it. This is another good word. Oh, it's going to be a blessing. Okay, Dueteronomy chapter 8. The whole commandment that I commanded you today, you shall be careful to do, that you may live and multiply and go in and possess the land that the Lord swore to give to your fathers. And you shall remember the whole way that the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness. Let's get to that. That he might humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart, right? This is how he gets out them impure motives, those in evil, wicked intentions, whether you would keep his commandments or not. Remember, that's a time of testing, the wilderness. And he humbled you and let you hunger and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but lives by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. And this is very important, being humbled. He humbled them so that he could feed them himself, so they would rely on him. This is what happens with a sheep and the shepherd. And being humble, meaning they were stripped and depending upon him. Manna was something that God gave them. It was heavenly food. It was not from earth. That lets us know God will provide and protect his own people. No matter what is going on, he will do that. And we shall not live by bread alone, because it's not by substance of the earth and the world that we live by. It is by him that we live by. And this is why that is so important. Your clothing did not wear out on you. Remember this 40 years. And your foot did not swell these 40 years, meaning you were able to go through this terrain. It was a testing. It was a trial and tribulation. It had to be. Know them in your heart that as man disciplines his son, that the Lord God discipline you. And this is what this is about. Discipleship comes from the word discipline. You must be disciplined. This is why boundaries, this is why all of this is in place. And this is your fault, your parent chastising you. This is all of this, This is what this is about. So you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God by walking in his ways and by fearing him. For the Lord your God bringing you into a good land, a land of brooks, of water, of fountains and springs, flowing out in the valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey, a land in which you will eat bread without scarcity, in which you will lack nothing, a land whose stone and iron and are of whose hills you can dig copper. And you shall eat and be full, and you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land that he has given unto you. So this is letting them know what they're about to go into. Take care lest you forget the Lord your God and not keep his commandments. Remember, this is always a part of the stipulation and his rules and his statutes, which I command you today, lest when you have eaten and are full and have built good houses and live in them, and when your herds and flocks multiply and your silver and gold is multiplied and all that you have is multiplied, then your heart will be lifted up and you forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. This is also talking about not forgetting him after he gives you everything you requested, everything you wanted, everything he promised, because a lot of times this is what happens, and we see this with ourselves and with others all of the time. He is the one who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of bondage, out of the house of slavery, who led you through the great and terrifying wilderness with its fiery serpents and scorpions and thirsty ground where there was no water, who brought you water out of the flinty rock, exactly, who fed you in the wilderness with manna that your fathers did not know, and that might humble you and test you to do you good in the end. Beware lest you say in your heart, my power and might of my hand have gotten me this wealth. This is so important because it is he who gives us the power to get wealth. You shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you, the power to get wealth, and that he may confirm his covenant that he swore to your fathers as it is this day. And if you forget the Lord your God and go after other gods and serve them and worship them, I will solemnly warn you today that you shall surely perish. Why? Because he is the one sustaining them. If he had left them, they would have perished a long time ago. He brought them out to sustain them, to bless them. This is why. Like the nations that the Lord makes to perish before you, so you shall perish also, because you would not obey the voice of the Lord your God. So these things are very important. Let's get into it, because we often see, and this is what we've been talking about, it is theme. God is directly speaking, letting us know and understand His blessings comes with conditions. What are those conditions? What are those boundaries? That you will abide in him, his commandments. You will have a relationship with him. This is just like a parent with their children. You live with your parents, you do what they say. If not, you get out on your own and you do what you need to do. Eventually you're going to have to do that. But during that time in the house, that's testing and trials. Why? Because that's the time for you to learn before you get into the real world. This is what this is about. This is so good. Let's get into it. Moses had charged parents in teaching, yes, their children to whet the word of God upon them by frequent repetition of the same thing over and over again, meaning to let them understand. Repetition, this is how they learn. And here he himself takes the same method of instructing the Israelites as his children, frequently and inculcating the same precepts and cautions with the same motives and arguments to enforce them, that what they heard so often might abide with them. Right, that's train up a child in the way she goes. So when they get older, they will not depart from it. In this chapter, Moses gives them general exhortation to obedience, a review of the great things that God has done for them in the wilderness. Remember it as good arguments for obedience, a prospect for the good and land in which God would now bring them into, a necessary caution against temptations of prosperous conditions, meaning a fair warning that the fatal consequences of apostasy from God, meaning at the time when they get into this land, do not think it was by you, yourself, and you that got you there. Do not think that you no longer need God because now you have gotten all these things and you feel like within yourself you have done this, because without God you wouldn't have been able to do it. And we see this happen over and over again. This is such a good word. And this goes to show us that, yes, we're supposed to have reverence, we're supposed to have honor, gratitude, and appreciation for not only God, but for those whom God sends us, destiny helpers, our parents, our family and friends, and people who come about in our lives who are there to help, to love, to guide us. And yes, they may come with rules and regs. They may not be the ones that's going to just sit there and let you do whatever you want, but love is that way because it has boundaries. The boundaries are that this is what God has set forth. Yes, his love is unconditional, but it does come with conditions. And we see that right here. Why? Because he specifically showed them that if they would have turned their backs on him, it would be the greatest thing that they ever would have done in their lives, meaning the travesty of it all. Here's a clear spiritual focus on this situation. This is Deuteronomy chapter 8. Here's a clear spiritually focused summary of chapter 8, along with explanation of what it teaches about spiritual lineage and identity. Okay, Deuteronomy chapter 8, spiritually. Deuteronomy 8 is Moses' reminder to Israel, remembering God as they prepare to enter the promised land, meaning all that he has for them. After all the trials and tribulations, now we are here. Okay, after all of the testing, here we are. You're at the brink of what it is you want. But do not forget, when I bless you, do not turn your back against me. The chapter highlights three central themes. Memory, right? Do not forget. Do not forget me and what we've been through. This relationship, this bond, what we have. Yes, make sure your motives, your intentions are pure. Humility and dependence upon God, meaning humility, meaning reverence, meaning gratitude, meaning thankfulness, not ungratefulness, not, oh, they did it on their own, not puffed. No, this is what that's the opposite. Remember God's leading in the wilderness. Moses urges the people to recall how God led them through the 40 years of wilderness, meaning of trials and testing, of nothingness, using hardship to what? To humble them, to test their hearts. Why? Motives, intentions, to teach them to depend on God and not on themselves and other people, places, and things. This is what this is about. The famous lines appear here where it says, man does not live by bread alone. We cannot, because there's not enough sustenance for us to do that. We need to live by what? By every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Why? Because it is the spiritual realm that is what actually feeds us. It is not just this natural realm. Without the spirit, the body is nothing. We must always remember that. The word is your spiritual food. Okay, regular food is your bodily food. God's provision and discipline. Moses reminds them their clothes did not wear out, meaning he provided no matter what it was. Their feet did not swell, meaning you still were able to walk. God fed them manna, you ate. God disciplined them as a father disciplined a child. This frames God as not as a distant deity, but as a parent shaping their children's character. This is what this is about. So when we look at what we go through in life and the ungratefulness, instability, and we think about how the relationship of the world is when it comes to family and being grateful, honoring, especially when it comes to your parents, the children, the relationships, as we can see, God is showing us here. They're close. You didn't have everything you wanted, but you were provided for. You were taken care of. Be thankful and be grateful for what you did have. Being covetousness, envious, jealousy of other people, places, and things is a problem because it takes away from the gratitude that we have with what you have. No, you do not have what others have. You may have more, you may have less, but be thankful for that because you didn't have to have that. And this is what this is all about. That's why he said your clothes did not wear out. Your feet did not swell, meaning you're still able to walk, talk. You're in your mind. God fed them manna. God disciplined them as a father disciplined a child because it's so easy for us to forget. It's so easy for us to want other things or want more. This is what this is about. This frames God not as a deity, but as a parent shaping their character. Remember that. The promise of abundance. Moses described the rich land ahead, streams, wheat, barley, vines, figs, pomegranates, oil, honey, iron, and copper. Far better than the scarcity of the wilderness. And much, much better because no matter what they say, they sit here and they talk about these things, but it was so much better being where they were, even in the wilderness, than being in Egypt. And at times, remember, they were always referring back to Egypt as if that was a wonderful place. And a lot of times we do not remember the full story. We remember half or what we want, what we choose to remember, and we have to remember it in full, in its entirety. But blessing comes with a warning, and this is the warning. Warning against forgetfulness, meaning remembering what you want, and pride. Only remembering the part that makes you the victim. And we see this in all of what we see, especially when it comes to parents and children, when it comes to all the things in our life, people, places, things. It could be a job, it could be whatever, it could be every aspect. We have to remember this. Warning against forgiveness and pride. When they prosper, that they must not forget the Lord. Believe their success comes from their own power and turns to other gods, meaning their own stuff, doing their own thing. Saying the heck with God, I got what I want and I'm going to do what I want now. And most times this is what happens. Moses stresses this. Remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the power to get wealth. And because he gave it to you, he can easily take it away. If they forget God, they will risk losing everything as previous nations had. This is what this is all about. So when we look at this, God wants relationship, but we must understand he wants loyalty. No one wants to be with someone and just have a relationship with no loyalty, no faithfulness, no respect, no gratefulness, no honor. Spiritual lineage themes come in here. This is chapter 8. Israelite spiritual identity to memory as a spiritual inheritance. It could be for their good or their bad, depending on what they remember, when, and how. This is what this is about. We understand that we remember things. What we remember, when we remember, what we pick and choose to remember or not remember. Yes, we must understand this. A key idea in Hebrew spirituality is that lineage is not just biological, it's remembered history. This is why they must pass it on. Why? To let the other generation know exactly what went on. That's why we shouldn't leave out things. Tell the truth and the whole truth, no matter how good, bad, or ugly it is. Why? Because they must understand life is not a cakewalk. You cannot just sit here and say, oh, well, everyone's going to be a bed of roses, because it's not. It's not that you can't get through it, but you want someone who's going to tell you the truth. When my kids used to tell me I didn't listen, it's not that I didn't listen. I didn't agree with everything that they said. And because I didn't agree, I think they felt like I didn't listen. No, I understand what you're saying. I hear it. But at the same token, when I say something, that was because I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to get you to understand. I heard you. I heard everything you said, but because there's certain things that I've been there and done, I'm trying to warn you before you get ahead of yourself about what is to come. And this is what Moses is doing. He's passing it on, letting them know, you're not the only one who's been down this road. Others have been here before. They've gone through this, whether God has known, because other nations have did the same thing. And these other nations, God blessed, and they probably was blessed and prosperous, and they did the same thing. They worship other gods. God shapes Israel not just by giving laws, but by shaping a story that they must pass on. Remember how the Lord led you, guided you. Do not forget and teach your children. Memory comes with the spiritual DNA of the people. Do not forget what he has done for you already. Be happy, grateful, and thankful. Be respectful and in honor of it. Why? Because he doesn't have to do it, and he can take it away. And the moment you forget, and the moment you think that it was all you, and the moment you're not grateful and you think you had it all together, and no, it was not. God is the one who did it. He's the one that helped you. He was there. Just like in your own life with your own children. A lot of times children are very ungrateful. They are very disrespectful. They do not honor. They do not respect the gratitude and the magnitude of what their parents went through to make sure that they were provided and taken care of. And although it may not be the greatest or the best or the worst, it's still their best. They gave you what they didn't have or what they couldn't give. Be happy and thankful for that.
I do your video, right?
I'm doing it.
Okay.
I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
All right. You going upstairs? Okay.
No, I'm trying to get it on WhatsApp.
Oh, okay.
Do you want?
Yeah, if they got one, salsa, they got it in there.
No, I like WhatsApp.
Okay. Yeah.
You want that?
Yeah. The wilderness as a spiritual parent. The wilderness experience is portrayed almost like a formative child. Yes. Childhood. Discipline, provision, lessons in trust, dependence on a faithful parent. Their spiritual lineage is rooted in learning to rely on God when they had nothing. And I think a lot of times with our parents, we do not honor them. We do not give them the credit that they are due, because they are human beings and they have flawed and they have issues. They have go through things. We get that, just like we do too. And forgiveness and all of this goes both ways. You know, where the parents are not gods in people in children's lives. They're not. They're just leadership. They're heads. They're, ones God gave over the children to do whatever. It is not that the parent chose to be here. No, God allowed them to be on both ends. You didn't like the parenting. The parent may not have wanted to be your parent. You may not have wanted, but it was what God chose for both of you. So you have to deal with it. No one wanted to be here. None of us did. But we're here and we have to deal with it. The wilderness experience is portrayed like this. Is discipline. Why? They needed discipline. They needed provision. They needed lessons in trust. And they need dependence on faithful parents. This is what we see. It's rooted in learning, relying on God when they had nothing. And this is what we had to do even as children. But a lot of times we don't rely on God, and then our children don't rely on us or whatever. If they do, eventually they go away, which they're supposed to. They're supposed to grow up and move forward. But they don't have to grow up and move forward and be rude, disrespectful. They have to grow up and move forward and be, the way that they are. A lot of times folks are distant or whatever when things are happening in their life. Don't forget who was there. Don't forget who was there the whole time for you, because that would not be a good thing for you. This is what this is about. Humility as the covenant identity. The spiritual lineage is not one of self-made strength, but of divine rescue, God-given provision, and a humbled heart. Israel's spiritual ancestry is built on recognition. Their life comes from God, not personal achievement. And in God's case, this is what God does in our life, because we're not God in our children's lives, we're parents. But there's a lot of similarities with the things in distinction as to being a parent or being children, because you were once a child and you were once a parent, so you know both ends. And this is what this is about. Humility as a covenant identity. God has been divinely rescuing us, whether we had a relationship with him or not, whether we cared anything about him, whether we wanted a relationship, he still provided and protected all of us in some sense of way, whether we were with other gods or not. So to be, thankful and grateful and honoring of him for doing it, because he doesn't have to. You see what I'm saying? It should be a grateful gratitude and a thankfulness behind that, because he doesn't have to. Blessings is meant to be remembered and not possessed. And remember, ancestral wise, we tend to pass on these things. You don't just pass on, you do pass on ungratefulness. You do pass on different things. You do pass on if it's narcissistic behavior. Whatever it is, you can pass these things on, abusive behavior. Why? Because the trauma, when it happens and it bleeds out on everyone, whether we know it or not. And this is why we have to give each other grace and mercy on both ends for the situations. Blessings is meant to be remembered, not possessed. This is why we have to do this. So anyway, blessings is a gift. It's not something you have to get. Forgetfulness is the spiritual danger. Gratitude keeps lineage alive. Spiritual lineage grows through gratitude, obedience, and remembrance, right? Because no one wants to do things and then it's remembered as nothing, or it's not any gratitude behind it. And obedience is better than sacrifice. So we always want to be obedient in these situations. Okay, I got it. Give me 1 second. I apologize for that. I had to move real quick, but yeah. So Gratitude, obedience, and remembrance. Remembering what people do for you because they don't have to, especially when it comes to God. And having gratitude. Gratitude could be so much more. It could be your attitude of gratitude that continue to allow people to be around you and be a blessing to you, because once you feel like they have to or they're demanded to, then that's when people are like, oh no. And God is the same way. Like, I don't have to. I bless you not because of what you do, and I don't love you because of what you did or didn't do. I love you because you're mine. And see, once we understand that from a parent-child relationship, we'll understand it a little bit better, that it's not because we're bound to do it. We did it because we wanted to, because we loved you. And if we don't have to. And this is what this is about. Now, God is different from man, because his love and his patience and his mercy is different from ours a lot. And us being human beings, and the way we love from the way he loved is totally different, and the way he handles us is totally different. This is why there's no greater love than the love from God. Why? Because he has agape love. He is love, and his love is much more different. We will cut each other off and not be bothered. We will go our separate ways and do other things. God is different. He does things differently. Now, it's not to say that when God comes into your life that these things cannot change, because he can. It can, but it has to be all parties, and they have to be willing, and they have to be changing and healing in order to do so. Why? Because then it's not going to, it's going to be a clashing situation. This is why sometimes God will allow things to be the way that they are for a time frame. Why? Before he can reconcile, because everyone has to be going through their, so it's not a repeat of the same old stuff over and over again. And that's what this is about. Now, we're called to love each other. We're called to forgive. But it doesn't necessarily mean all the time reconciliation. It doesn't all the time mean that, you're going to be what we used to, and we don't want to be what we used to, because we want to be better than what we used to. And this is what this is about, because there was obviously some type of breakage, something going on that, we're not going to be delusional. If there was some type of separation, I don't care if it was in a job, if it was in a relationship with your boss, your career, if there was a breakdown somewhere, we're not going to remember, oh, well, it was this wonderful thing out of delusion, out of desperation. No, we're going to remember what it really was. It was a situation, it was a lesson, it was this, it was that, and then we move forward from it, taking both the good and the bad from it, and just taking it and figuring out what to do moving forward from it. Why? Because there will always be a lesson in it. There will always be something you can take away from it that will be a help to you. So Deuteronomy 8 teaches that your true spiritual lineage is defined by remembering where God brought you from, staying humble even in the times of blessing. This is one of the most. In the times of good and bad, being humble. Trusting God through discipline and need, and passing down our story to the next generation. Why? Because discipline is always going to be a part of our lives. No one's going to do any and everything all the time that they want to do. We must understand there's going to be laws, there's going to be boundaries, there's going to be things, whether it's in your household, whether it's on your job, whether it's just on the road. I remember telling my kids a long time ago, you're going to have rules wherever you go. Whether you're in my house or somewhere else, it doesn't matter. You're going to have rules on your job. You're going to have rules in school. You're going to have rules everywhere. If you're driving, there's rules. And I think, when children get to a certain age and they want to move out and do what they don't really understand that. They won't grasp it until they get out there on their own, and then they start to understand that we thought we were leaving from rules. We thought, the worst rules in the world was the rules that our parents had. No, the rules outside in the world is so much more than what was in the house. When you was in the house, you was up under current, because although you may have thought what was going on with your parents was so terrible, the world outside is so much worse than that. The in-house was just a training ground for you to prepare you for what is really on the outside. If you can't take what's going on the inside, you will not be prepared for what's going on the outside, because at the end of the day, it will be so much worse. And sometimes there is things that go on in the household that are really devastating. Don't get me wrong. I would never say that that's something we should be, no, not at all. But at the same token, what we must understand is things are going to happen in the home and outside of the home, whether we want them or not. It's not to say that it just is. This is life, and for everyone's life is different. So whatever the reason, whatever happened, whatever God allowed to happen for whatever reason, it just is a part of your story, and it's probably for you to move forward, whether it's something you did or didn't do, what someone else did, and it was just something that you had to go through so that someone else can come behind you, and that could be a part of your story to help others. We don't know. We know that the blind guy was blind and he was healed, and they said, who sinned? And he said, no one. So we can't really sit here and say back and forth which one, how, we don't really know. Sometimes it is a curse, sometimes it's not. Whatever it is, everyone's life is their own life, and God has his own, way of doing things in their lives. So now we're going to get into this Deuteronomy 8 reminds Israel to remember how God led them. How he humbled them and he provided for them during their 40 years in the wilderness. No matter what, when you come from your homes and you know, with your parents or whatever, they did the best that they could. They provided for you. Now, we can't say that with God because God has it all. But we're just, I'm just explaining it the best way that I can. God did what he did because he's the miraculous God. Now, as parents, we have limitations as to what we can and cannot do. We're not God, and we're not God in your lives. And I think a lot of times that happens where we tend to put our parents as these superhumans that's supposed to do any and everything, and if they're not, even with God, our expectations could be very high with what we want, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it lines up with what God wants for our lives. And sometimes that expectation will have us feeling entitled or angry about things if they don't go the way we wanted or thought they should go in our lives. And this, I think, is a lot of us suffer with a lot of these type of situations. So when we look at them, a lot of times it wasn't God. It was just that we wanted certain things that either weren't good for us or didn't line up with God's will for our lives. This is something we need to look at and understand as well. But God will use the hardship to shape your character and teach you that the true life comes from his word and his presence. Moses warns them not to let future prosperity make them proud, of course, or forgetful or self-reliant, meaning the spiritual lineage is rooted in remembering God as the one who provides, he disciplines, he sustains, and he empowers. So all of those things are very, very intricate. Providing, meaning provision, always giving you, providing what you need in life, not everything you necessarily want in life, just as your parent. Discipline, meaning in times when you need discipline in whatever area of your life to be shown you can or cannot do this, can or cannot do that. Why? Because without discipline, life is just chaos. It's utter chaos. There's no, boundaries. There's no, whatever for your life. You just doing what you want to do. There's always going to be some type of boundary. There's always going to be some type of something. Why? Because you there's governing. Everyone can't just do any and everything they want to do. This is not, for their own selves and for other people. And then he sustains and he empowers, meaning he maintains, sustains you, and keeps you no matter what the situation, circumstance in your life. You could be going through storms, you could be, whatever it is going on, circumstance, situations, he will sustain you, meaning keep you through it, keep you in it, meaning don't allow you to fall apart completely, lose your mind, whatever it is. And whatever is going on, it won't overtake you to the point where, you see what I'm saying? So, and it empowers you, meaning to use whatever is there to move forward, to learn from it and to grow from it. Forgetting God results in loss, but remembering him secures identity, blessing and continuity for generations. And this is the blessing in the lesson right here. It secures identity. It passes down these other things, these blessings instead of curses, and continuity for generations to come. Because these are stories that you need to pass down to your children to let them know what is going on. Why? So that they are not in the blind. This is what's in our line, and a lot of us do not have that. We don't understand it. And a lot of our families did not grow up with it either. So they don't have it. They don't understand it. It's just... Now, devotional reflection. Remembering is an act of faith. We often think blessings are moments that shape us the most, but Deuteronomy 8 reveals something deeper. It is the wilderness that builds spiritual lineage, right? God intentionally brought Israel into a place where their own strength couldn't save them. And a lot of times when we're going through situations and circumstances in our life, this is the exact reason why God allows it. Why? Because he needs to let you know you are not self-sustained, that you are not God, and you are not all-powerful, all-knowing. No. And this is why we need faith, and we need to rely on him, because there's things in life that we cannot do on our own. We can only do but so much, and he needs to teach us the difference in what battles are ours, what battles are his, and what battles we can fight and are able to fight and are ours to fight, and what are not. When they were hungry, he gave them manna. When they were worn down, he kept their clothing from failing and falling apart. When they needed direction, he guided them one step at a time. This reminds me of children. And you're raising children, and you don't have all the provisions. You're doing the best you can, and you're still there no matter what is going on. Your wilderness seasons, the ones you didn't choose, also become the spiritual soil where God plants humility, dependence, and wisdom. Just like Israel, God is shaping you into someone who won't forget him when the blessings do come. And this is so important, because a lot of times this happens Once people come blessed, they forget who was there when they were not, especially God, who was there throughout all of the trials and tribulations with them. He kept them, And so at the end of the day, whether it's family, friends, especially God, because that's the number one, we don't want to do that, because that's shooting ourselves in the foot. I always tell people that. The Spirit teaches us that memory itself is faith, remembering where God found us, how he carried us, and the doors he opened. Your story becomes part of your spiritual inheritance, something to pass down, something that anchors you when life shifts, something that reminds you that God's hand has always been, on your life. This is also a situation to where, like I said before, you don't forget who brought you. Oh, this stupid bug. Don't forget who brought you through, and don't forget who keeps you, and don't forget who gave you strength when you had none. And this is very important to me, because I'm gonna tell you, this is a part of your testimony. This is the reason for it, because this is the faith to faith journey. When people say, oh, you read it in the book or somebody told you, no, this is the life experiences that you have experienced for yourself, where you have seen the hand of God miraculously out of situations you cannot explain, you cannot tell anyone, because just telling them, they'll look at you like you're crazy, that he brought you from there to here, and if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have been right. And this is what this is all about. And I think, even in our lives, and just with our family, friends, and everyone else, this is so important for other people to see, hear, and know, because having your own relationship with God is so important. And knowing that you know that this is God, and knowing that you're leaning on him, and no matter what anyone says, no matter what anyone does, that you have your own relationship, and you see where he has brought you from, you see what he's done in your life, and you know that he's the only one that has been there. And I, for my own self, can testify and tell you this. Why? Because I know for my own self, when folks thought, I was down and out, that I was just going to be over with and done, honey, it was nothing but God. But he had done it so many times before, and I didn't see it, and I didn't pay it no mind. And this was a time, that really was a time. And he will let you continue to go through these things until you get it. Anyway, memory as a spiritual identity. Israel's relationship with God is built on remembering his leading, his miracles, his discipline. Memory becomes a spiritual inheritance that keeps future generations grounded, right? Reflecting. What part of your spiritual story would you want the next generation to remember? All of it. The goods, the bad, the highs, the lows, ups and downs. Why? Because it is a great blueprint for other people, especially going through certain things in their lives that could help them move forward in their journey, and know that no matter how difficult it was, lean on God. He's still there. He will still be there for you. And so it wasn't an easy journey. It was very difficult. And a lot of it had to do with me, because it's harder for those who hold on, who have the most stuff going on. For whatever reason, it seems to be just that much harder for them. Oh, this stupid thing. That's because this, there's a bug in here that's getting on my nerves. But anyway, and I know it's just a distraction. I'm not about to do that, but I gotta kill it because it's getting on my nerves. Okay, so now God has this one as a marked lineage. As a man, this one his child. This one is relational, not punitive. Right? God disciplines to shape, not to shame. God's reflection. Where do you see God's discipline as protection rather than punishment? Oh, wait a minute. I skipped the part. Wilderness as a training ground. God uses this difficulty to humble and test the heart. The wilderness is where spiritual characters form. Reflection question. What did your last wilderness season teach you that abundance never could? Oh, this one taught me so much. I'm going to tell you. Who's there, who's not, who really loves you, who's really, was lying, who really was backstabbing, who really was, this last season of my life has just shown me so much who would really be there. The ones I thought would be there wouldn't be there. Folks not being there completely, or half being there, or enjoying, the heartache, the pain, whatever I was going through, thinking they're going to benefit, get over, whatever it was. And it could be family, friends, it could be at work, it could be in so many different areas of my life. When I tell you, it's just something. And this is why I cling so hard to the Lord, because I know that it's not my might, it's not my power, it's not my, when it comes to my mental, emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual well-being. If it wasn't for the Lord, I would have been just probably somewhere locked up in a crazy house, because what all I went through. If my mind, and I tell people, sometimes God will allow things that's so devastating in your life that your mind, if he doesn't keep you, through it, you could lose your mind. And when you think about just going, and losing your mind on top of everything else, being healed, whole, delivered, being in your right mind, clothed in your right body, all of these things is so important, because who wants to be here and can't even, maneuver, every day that you wake up clothed in your right mind, you're not in the mental ward, you're mentally sane, you're able to, that's a blessing from God, and we don't take these things seriously, but we need to. We really, really do. Not being sick, being able to get up out of your bed and being able to move around and being able to go work a job, even if it's just a job or you're working, be happy that you have that job. Some people don't have that, some people are not able to do that. And this is where the gratitude comes in, because a lot of times our lives are not what we thought or want, and the great expectation of what God should be this genie and just give us any and everything. And that's not the way that works. So God has discipline, a mark of lineage. As man, discipline is child. Discipline is relational, not punitive. It's to help you see and learn. God discipline is shape, not the shame. Reflection. Where do we see God's discipline as protection rather than punishment? All throughout my life, I see it. I didn't see it, a lot of it at first. A lot of times, we don't see, because we don't see it, we don't know. But there's some things that if he had have allowed it to go the way that I prayed and wanted it, it would have been the death of me. People, places, and things that I thought were for me were not. And when I think about it, it's like, well, dag, if he had have allowed that to go the way that I begged and pleaded and wanted it, it wouldn't have been for my good. So that rejection was actually protection for me, not even knowing at that time. It was after that it was revealed that these people, places, and things really were not for me. You see what I'm saying? They would have been to the destruction of me. So I thank God for that. I didn't want it at the time. I was angry about it. I was hurt about, not being able to get and have what I wanted and thought I wanted and thought would have been good for me. But in all actuality, God knew better, because he knew the outcome. He knew what was really in the hearts of these people, places, and things, and it wasn't for my good. Prosperity and danger, forgetfulness. Success can make us think, my hands have done this. Yes, forgetting God breaks spiritual continuity. Exactly. How can we keep gratitude in the front during our blessed season of blessings? Continuing to know that it's not by us, it's by him. And remembering what he has done before. It is not by our hands, it's by his hands, because we live and breathe and move because of him. We wake up because of him. We're able to function because of him. So without him, we can do nothing. And knowing that, me being a person that was always a person that, was struggling and you going through this and going through that in my life, and knowing, that without him, people don't look at you and treat you, a certain way, and people have always, just kind of brushed you to the side and, whatever. And so I've never been the one that was the this or the that, the biggest, the greatest, in people's lives. And to see and understand and know that and being okay with that. But then for God to really show me, certain things. And it's like, okay, well, cool, I'm good. I don't need that. I don't want that. I'm okay. Because success, when you don't handle it, or it's the wrong way, or it's the wrong people, places, and things, it will make you forget God. And it will, have you out of the will and over there and doing other things, enjoying it, because the same people, and I tell people all the time, the same ones who on Palm Sunday was loving Jesus, praising him, worshiping him, was the same people a week later sent him to the cross. And this is how quick that can change. So the same people that love you 1 minute could be the same people that are up there plotting for your downfall. This is why we have to be so careful of this. How can we keep gratitude in front of us during these seasons of blessings? Remembering God and all he has done already. And knowing that he's the only one that's really loved you and truly there for you. And without him, you really can't have or do or be nothing. Covenant blessing as a generational legacy. Blessing isn't just for Israel. It's for those who come after them. And remembering God preserves your spiritual lineage. Reflection questions. And that's so important, because you want it to continue to flow. You want to be able to leave more, not just a natural inheritance, but a spiritual inheritance of blessings and not just curses to your family. And this is what this is about. Reflection questions. What practices will you pass spiritually memory to your family and community right now? I'm here as a testimony, just letting them know in every aspect of my life, whatever that may be. Some people may relate to some of the situations and circumstances in my life, and some people cannot. But so they can see that I have come a mighty long way, and that God is the reason, and that if he can change my life, he can change yours if you work with him and allow him to. And this is more than anything else in the world. because it's not by me. I can't, I can bring it to them, but it's up to them to move forward with him. One plant, one waters, and God gives increase. You can't force and make people love you. You can't force and make people love God. And they will do that on their own. Even God does not force us. We all have free will. Heritage focused prayer based on Dueteronomy 8. We're going to look at this. Father, I thank you for every wilderness that you walked me through, for the seasons that humbled me, shaped me, and taught me to trust your voice above all else. Keep my heart from forgetfulness, pride, and self-reliance. And these are things that we are, even having control over situations. These are so important that we understand we got to release it to God. Help me remember that every good thing in my life comes through your hand. Make my story a testimony that strengthens those who come after me. Yes, let my spiritual lineage be one of humility, gratitude, and obedience. Teach me to treasure the lessons that you wrote into my life so that they become a blessing to future generations. Keep me close, keep me teachable, and keep me remembering. Amen. Yes, Lord, I thank you so much for that. Let me see, because there was a couple of things that I still had wanted to go over real quick, and then this will be the last of it, and then I'll end this one out, and then I'm going to go straight into, I think it's 9 and then 10. Okay. Okay, it says, be careful to obey. Obedience is presented as the pathway to life. Remember that. Multiplication and inheritance. Remember that. God led humble and tested Israel not to harm them, but to reveal their hearts, meaning their motives and intentions. Okay, that's still inside of them in every aspect. That's their mental, emotional, physical, and financial and spiritual way of life. Manna taught dependence. Life comes from God's word, not physical resources. And a lot of times we get this mix because we tend to think that what's in the physical is more than what's in the spiritual, and it's not. Remember, everything that goes on in the natural already went on in the spiritual before we see it in the natural. Supernatural care, clothes, and things like that didn't wear out. God still continued to allow everything that they had to be endured. Their feet didn't swell, they didn't die out. God sustains even the unnoticed things, and this is so, even things we weren't grateful for, didn't thank him for. Also, that's the manna, that's all of it. He provided and protected, whether it was in ways we liked it or wanted, or to our standards of liking or great expectations or not. And this is what ungratitude does, and this is why we have to be careful. And when we look at our parents, we got to understand it as well. Discipline. Parental love, their identity is children of God, and he has to discipline them. And we don't like discipline. And when you are in a household where it's discipline, a lot of times you rebel because you don't like being disciplined. Now, don't get me wrong, people can rebel for other reasons, but a lot of times it has a lot to do with it as well. Walking with God requires obedience that flows from relationship. Yes, when you have a relationship, things will flow, but obedience will be different. And it's not to say all the time, because sometimes people are just rebellious. You can have a bunch of kids in the same household, same way, and some will do, with this or that, and then others, they're all different. Everyone's there. A vivid picture of abundance. Blessing is meant to be enjoyed and thanked God for. Right. Everything is to be, whether it's abundance or not, everything is a blessing, and we're supposed to be thankful and grateful for it, and enjoyed and thanking God for it. Forgetting God is the greatest spiritual danger prosperity brings. Yes, because once we get there, we see it all of the time where people just turn away and forget. And that is one of the main reasons why God, when it comes to comfort, it's like we wonder why he doesn't allow us to always have everything. And that's one of the reasons why, because he knows if we got it all, we would just act a fool. And not just to attend, we would destroy ourselves in the process. Comfort can lead to pride. Pride leads to forgetfulness. Forgetfulness leads to spiritual decline. Exactly. Once we get comfortable, that's what happens. Pride seeps in. Oh, I did it myself. I'm on the top. I'm doing. No, it wasn't you. It was God. Do not forget. Do not let it go to your head. God leads to spiritual decline, because if you do, God will quickly show you, the Lord giveth, and he will take it away. The wilderness was purposeful. God brought water from rock and manna from heaven to prepare them for responsibility. Exactly. Because you would go from being a child, baby, drinking milk and getting everything done for you. Now you must grow up. And in doing so, you will have responsibility. And a lot of times, people think they're ready for responsibility, but in all actuality, they're not. When they get it, they want the crown of it without having the responsibility of it. Warning, my power and strength produce this wealth. A false identity, like I said before. Hello. A false identity of I did it. Oh, it's me, I'm God, and that's not, you can't take it away from God. God gives you this to get the glory out of it, not for yourself, and to show him through you to others. God gives the power to gain wealth physically, mentally, and spiritually. Exactly. And this is what he wants us to know. Without him, we can't do nothing. We can't even wake ourselves up when we go to sleep. This is what this is all about. So when we think about us being gods and people walk around talking about that all of the time and worshiping all these other gods, we must understand that if that was the case, you sit here no, we are made in the image of God. Okay? He gives us certain ability, but we're not God, meaning we're not above him. And we must understand that. And no one else is above him. And I don't know what their God is, but I know my God, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Those are the ones I serve. The I am. Forgetting God results in losing what he gave. Exactly. Spiritual lineage breaks where memory breaks. Exactly. You forget him, and it's forgetting him, what you will lose what he gave you. Why? Because like I just said, he can give it and he can take it away. So whatever protection, and this includes with your parents. I mean, they don't have to stay, they don't have to put up, especially when you become adults and you start being ungrateful and you start, being dishonorable and disrespectful. Your parents can leave you where you are, and whatever's going on in your life, they can leave you right there. They don't have to be bothered. While you're an adult, they did their job, and they don't have to be bothered. And whatever they were doing or doing after, while you became an adult, and you continue to act like they didn't have to. From the time you became an adult, and you felt like you were grown and moved out and did whatever you want, they didn't have to be bothered with you anymore. Anything they did for you after that was them being, a loving parent and just but as far as having to, and even as a child, if they wanted to walk away, they could have. I tell people a lot of times as children, there are a lot of children that were out there that, although there's some say, oh, my parents were so terrible, a lot of children were out there didn't have anybody. And although their parents were supposed to take care of them, they didn't. What you have to do, what you're supposed to do, and what you do is different things. And so we have to give people the credit for what they did do, because they didn't have to. And once we understand that, then we'll move forward from there, because they could have walked away. Oh, you have children. Just because you have them doesn't mean. There's a lot of people out there who had children just because they were their children. They're supposed to take care of them. They did not force the care. The system had them. And they walked around with nobody. And then there's others who had it and did, or had one or the other, and they still weren't grateful. They still weren't appreciative. They still weren't respectful. They weren't thankful for whatever it was that they had. They were very ungrateful. And then one minute they had it, and the next minute God will remove it. Why? Because he can give it and he can take it. People don't have to stick around. They don't have to be bothered. They can move away from you and not be bothered. Okay, that's what you want. It was this, it was that. Hey, you go on and you do what you're doing, and then they can go on with their own lives. Why? Because you're no longer a child anymore. And when you were, they did whatever they did, and whether you like it or you agree with it or you're thankful for it and grateful for it or not, they don't have to, so they can stop. And that's just that. And then you'll be thankful. You wish you had what you had before, because you took what you had for granted. And when you do that and you're ungrateful, God will take it away, because nobody has to stick around. They do it because they want to, not because they have to. When they start making you feel obligated, then they won't do it. And I tell people that all the time. I don't have to do anything. If I'm going to do it, it's because I wanted to. In the moment you are ungrateful and feel like I have to, I will stop and I will no longer do anything else. And you'll be wishing you had what you had in me. Why? Because I was there trying to do. But since you weren't happy with that, I'm not here to please people. I'm not here to make everybody else's life wonderful while mine's, especially if I'm over here with my own stuff and nobody's caring and doing. No, God is here. He's helping me. I'm supposed to be a blessing here. And after a while, it's like, okay, enough with that. Pull back. Don't do that no more. We're going to come over here. You do what you do over here and let that go on about their business and let them do what they're doing. Because you're not here to do all that. I'm not God in anybody's life. So I can't fix everything in everybody's life, and I'm not called to do so. I'm not here to fight everybody's battles. No, I'm not called to do that either. That's between them and God. I have to do what I have to do in my life and with God, make sure I'm doing what I need to do and living in my life, and that's that. That's why we gotta, when we're out here doing, the one thing I've learned, check the ground, check with God, because if you don't see seeds sprouting up, if you don't see anything coming up eventually, when you're sowing, you're supposed to be reaping. And that's good and bad. And if you're not reaping what you've sown in the good areas of your life as well, there's a problem. And you have to look into that. And that's what I've been doing. And either you're sowing into bad ground, it wasn't your ground to sow into, God didn't tell you to do it. All of these things, you have to pay attention to these things. Because then you'll be sowing and you're not reaping. Something snatching that seed, is eating it, it's doing something to it. And it could be spiritually in the, it could be a curse, it could be something you did, they did, whatever it is, get with God and figure that out. Because disobedience is somewhere where you're not supposed to. When God's trying to let people see and reap what they've sown, and it's some bad stuff and you get in the way, you mess yourself up. That's how your seed gets swallowed up. Why? Because you weren't supposed to be over there in the first place. God is doing something in their lives. Let them go through what they need to go through sometimes, because that's God's way of what? Strengthening his relationship with them. Don't get involved. Don't get in the middle. Let God handle them. Don't run and save nobody. You can't save nobody. You're not God. You don't do the saving. He does. To know your place, let him do the saving. You sow. He gonna one sow, one water. God, one plant, one water. God give the increase. That's it. Forgetting God results in losing what he gave. Spiritual lineage breaks where memory breaks. All right, remembering of what was done, what wasn't done. This is what that is about. Summary outline: remembering the God who forms us. Introduction question: what has God brought you through that you should never forget? Oh, so much. Theme: memory is a foundation of spiritual identity. Remember the wilderness. God leads through humbling seasons. Yes, he does. Humbles you down, take it all away so that you would understand. Break it down. Discipline is parental love. Giveth, take it away. Let you go through what you need to learn. Why? What is the thing you need to learn? You will find that out. God doesn't change the situations and circumstances. Sometimes he changes you in them. That's why you don't get delivered from them. You get delivered through them. You must go through the wilderness season. He ain't gonna deliver you from every trial and tribulation. Some battles you have to fight so you can learn to fight, so you can learn to do what needs to be done. Wilderness forms spiritual character. Exactly, and that's the whole purpose. What don't kill you will only make you stronger. Application: your hardest season often carries your greatest spiritual inheritance. Exactly. Remember the blessing. God brings abundant seasons. Blessings must be enjoyed with gratitude. Exactly. Prosperity is not the enemy. Exactly. But pride is. Remember that. Application: praise is what protects your heart in abundance. Exactly. And we're supposed to praise no matter what situation, circumstances we're in life. So God brings abundance. Remember, the seasons change. We have them all. They go winter, spring, summer, fall in all of our lives. Blessings must be enjoyed with gratitude. Prosperity is not the enemy. You can be prosperous. Because if you're not, that's a curse. Remember, pride is. So the abundant life you can have without pride. No. Humility, thankfulness, gratefulness. And praise is what protects your heart in abundance. Guard your heart against forgetfulness. Blessings can make you believe the blessing is you. Pride disconnects generations from spiritual heritage. Exactly. The blessing is not about you. It's not you. It's about God. It's about your relationship with God. And it's about being blessed to be a blessing. It's to you, through you. Pride disconnects generations from spiritual heritage. Exactly. Pride and ego will send a lot of things down the drain. Me, I. It's us, it's we. That's the way that goes. And when you have households and you're running, that's what it's about. And the person in charge has to make decisions based on not just themselves and be selfish and what they want. It's about the whole household. This is what this is about. What benefits the whole household, not just that one person. And this is why this is so detrimental, because everyone wants to do things based on what they want. No, choices have to be made as a whole. It affects everyone in the household. Application: if you don't remember what God did, the next generation won't either, or they won't know, and that's a problem. So you have to tell them. I tell the truth with my children. I try to be as honest with them as I can about life. I don't want to lie to them. I don't want to give them fantasies and fairy tales. Why? Because that's a lie. That's a lie. Acknowledge God as the source. God gives power, wisdom, strength, and opportunity. Yes. Covenant identity is sustained by memory, right? Acknowledge God as the source. Not me, not people, places, and things. God is always the source. Now, who he uses, be thankful and grateful, but we don't worship them. And that's the thing. These idols, no. Bowing people, places, and things, no. That's why it says God gives power, wisdom, strength, and opportunity. Exactly. Covenant is identity and sustained by memory. The legacy you pass down begins with the gratitude you cultivate today. So an attitude of gratitude will always get you a long way. Conclusion: remembering is worship. Exactly. Worship comes in different forms. It be just your life being worship. Not just clapping of the hands, it's living, doing, breathing the word, having a relationship. Forgetting is spiritual drift. Yes, it's like disconnection, going far, going astray. And your story is your lineage. Family, small group study. Okay, watching Icebreaker. What is one thing that brought you through that you never want to forget? There's so many things. Scripture reading. Read Deuteronomy 8 aloud together. Discussion. Which wilderness experience shaped you the most? Why is prosperity spiritually dangerous if we're not careful? How can families protect themselves from forgetfulness? These are so important. What spiritual lessons do you want the next generation to inherit? How can we build rhythms of remembrance? These are very important, because this is what this is about. We want to make it together. Practical activities, memory jar, write down blessings and answer prayers, and revisit the monthly Heritage Night. Share stories of God's faithfulness across generations. The blessing will walk through your home and thank God for the ways He has provided. Personal journal worksheet. You can do this too. A reflection, reflecting on when God has humbled me. What blessings am I in danger of taking for granted? What spiritual manna, meaning food, has God given me recently? Meaning all things, unexpected provision, encouragement, or wisdom. Gratitude list. Write down 10 things that God has brought you through. Promise to remember. Finish the sentence. I refuse to forget that God. Legacy intentions. Write a short paragraph on what spiritual inheritance you want to pass on. Then you can have these different things. I mean, you know, everyone has their own thing. You can do spoken word. People have music. You have different ways of being grateful, thankful, and acknowledging God, whether it's through your giving, whether it's through spending time with Him, whether it's worship and praise at home, whatever it may be. Everyone's different. You know, we all have our own gifts and talents as to what God has given us and our own spiritual walk and guidelines. So with that being said, we are bruised and not broken. I am going to end this. This is Deuteronomy chapter 8, and I hope this word was a blessing to you guys. And I'm going to go into 9 and then hopefully 10, so that way I'll be caught up. I had to get me some rest. And mind you, it was freezing this weekend in New York. And by the way, this is my 401 video. My last video I forgot was my 400 video. I started this on this journey 2 years ago, and I wasn't sure how this was going to go, and God has just been doing some things and showing me some things. And it started all with questions and me just really wanting to know, you know, more about Him in my life and what's going on. And God has me here doing this, and to help whoever is on this journey so that they can get through it and have some type of help, because sometimes we are so alone and we don't know. There's not too many people we could go to. I mean, we have God, but we need, you know, we need fellowship. And churches are wonderful, don't get me wrong, but you have, you know, got to know which ones and what's going on, and then as well as the people, because a lot of times you feel so alone. I didn't want to get too hooked on electronics, places and things, but it was just, one, an outlet. It was two, somewhere I could testify and I could give my testimony and to encourage and help other folks, you know, with whatever it is, especially starting out walking with the Lord. A lot of times we need help with that. And hey, I'm just here to help people navigate and to be able to live on earth as is in heaven. We're supposed to live here godly lives, and sometimes that is so difficult to do, especially when you're just starting out, knowing how to be alone, how not to have friends that are out there in the world, how to live, you know, right, and asking God to show us how to get through this walk and to be holy and live here, but not be of here, but not be miserable here, and having a life and still being full of joy instead of being angry and hurt and all of these things all the time, you know, and allowing God to heal, deliver, and restore us at the same time. It's just a lot. And whatever else is going on in our life would mean, you know, in all the areas of our lives. So I thank you guys. Be blessed. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and share to others so that they may also be able to, you know, see the video and it may be a blessing to their lives. I don't know. I'm just, you know, letting God do His thing. And I know that, you know, someone's going to be blessed. But we're bruised and not broken. Love you guys. Be blessed. Like I said, it's my 400 video. Well, this one is 401. The last one was my 400. I didn't even pay it no mind. But okay, love you guys. Be blessed. Later, I'm about to do the next two. Later.